Hi there, and welcome to this short video about Caitlyn and Vi from Arcane. I've talked at length about these two lovely ladies, and this video is no different. This video, however, addresses the problem of the timeline in their story, not their story itself. Many have said that this attachment between them is moving too fast, because all the time they spend together only takes about a day, or two at the most. Well, it's not just a day. It's actually more like 5 to 5.5 days by the time we get to Jinx's Mad Tea Party in episode 9. One way of counting the days is to say that each episode roughly takes about a day, and since they meet at the end of episode 4, it fits. There you go. End of video. Bye. Well, you know me. I like to talk at length, and also I'd like to prove to you that this way of counting the days is more or less accurate. The reason why we have such a hard time counting the days to begin with is because Caitlyn and Vi spend most of their time in the Undercity and the light of day rarely filters through, so it's basically always dark down there. Then how do we tell the days apart? Well, we parallel events in the Undercity to events taking place in Piltover, where the sun rises and sets, thereby showing us the days passing by. The events in Piltover and the Undercity run parallel chronologically because certain events line up at the same time, such as the council meeting. Caitlyn and Vi meet at the end of episode 4 at nightfall. We know that Caitlyn has come directly from her sickbed and her talk with Jace, because she says that he has been a counsellor
since today.
So I guess this counts as a half day, or night really, that they have known each other. When episode 5 starts, it's still that same night, picking up right where we left off in episode 4. Kate lets out Vi, and the next time we see them at the bathysphere, it is broad daylight, so obviously next day. Also because Jace says to Marcus that he has been counsellor for 2 days now. Lots of things happen in this day. They are taking their time going through the Undercity, parkouring, the wardrobe change, the lunch stop, and walking past the last drop. Right after the food stand, we see that the sun is going down over Piltover, pink skies over the theatre where the evening concert is about to start. After this, they get to the brothel, which usually also is the type of place to be open after hours, much like the last drop. Simultaneously, we see Mel seducing Jace with glittering stars above on a night sky. The day ends quite late, with Vi being stabbed by Savika and Caitlyn saving her. Thank God. When we finally meet them in episode 6, there's been a lapse of time. For one, because already before we meet them, the sun has risen on Mel and Jace, and Jinx is hanging out in the last drop, which seems closed for business, or at least very slow. For another, because Silco's goons that Savika has organized have almost caught up with them. So my guess is this is sometime early in the morning for them, though of course it is still very dark at the very lowest part of the Undercity. Vi passes out. We don't know for how long. And eventually Caitlyn goes out to try and do something about Vi's injury. Meanwhile, Silco has been at Marcus's house complaining about Vi and Caitlyn teaming up, and we see Marcus meeting Jace later. Both these meets are in broad daylight. Right after the easy moment, they get chased and run up to where Jinx is waiting. She's holding the flare at the upper end of the Undercity, and there is a starry night sky above her. So this means that it is after about 2 days together that we get the wonderfully electric almost kiss. Seems to me to be a reasonable amount of time to establish a connection, though not a deep one yet. The day ends with both Vi and Caitlyn being knocked out and taken by the firelights. They wake up the next day in the firelight lair, and when Echo takes them outside one after the other, the sun is shining. Clearly, it's a new day. And they spend the rest of the day there because it's dark when they leave again and when they reach the bridge. Before they leave the firelights, we also see time going by in Piltover, the bridge rides during the day, and Mel in her tower overlooking the sunset. And then we get the wonderful hug on the bridge at night in the fog, Their attachment to each other, not just on a superficial level now, but on an emotional level. Their fierce protection of each other further proves this, and it occurs at almost exactly 3 full days after they meet at Stillwater Hold. By the time Vi and Caitlyn make it back to Caitlyn's room, the morning has just broken over Piltover. And when they lie in bed, long shadows and pink shades of light show that it is still early in the day. Beautiful scene. Kudos to Fortiche. Most of the day goes by where they presumably stay at Caitlyn's place, in my opinion, taking a well-deserved and much-needed nap. When they're in the council chamber, it looks to be light out still, but by the time we get to the melancholic rain scene, the streetlights have been lit and darkness is spreading in more ways than one. Victor running right after under a starry sky further supports this timeline. So them getting to talking about a relationship which hasn't yet really started is not so unheard of after 4 full days of being together all hours of the day. I'm not exactly sure, however, when Vi and Jace fighting at the Shimmer Factory and Caitlyn's shower scene take place. My best guess is the next day, since it takes a little time to forge a hammer and to muster a bunch of enforcers and initiate a bust of the Shimmer Factory. Also, I find it more likely that Caitlyn showers in the morning, since she had already showered before the council meeting. So episode 8 contains more than one day, just as episode 4 and 5. And episode 9 picks up right where episode 8 leaves off. Time lapses after Vi smashes the shimmer container because we see it drained when Silco and Savika are there. And meanwhile, Mel meets her mother in broad daylight in Piltover, but when Jace meets with Silco, it is dusk already, signifying another day gone by. After this, Jinx kidnaps Silco and Vi, and we see both of them and Caitlyn at her table in the dark. Thus almost 5 days in total have gone by when we see them for the last time, holding each other overlooking disaster unfolding. Almost a week of being together non-stop. Quite enough time to fall in love, in my opinion. So, those were the days we see spent together on screen. We actually also have to factor in the amount of time they spend together off screen. Because as we've seen, many days go by and we only see very little of each day. For example, in episode 4 and 5, where Caitlyn lets out Vi, there's a lot of information that has been left out. In order for Caitlyn to break Vi out of prison, she has had to forge a document, and I really don't think she had the items to do this in her pocket. She didn't plan to spring the tattooed man from prison, just to question him, so the release is spontaneous. Caitlyn probably had to run back to her place, or Jace's place, or the enforcer station to find the form and the seal to forge Vi's release papers. The light over Stillwater Hold seems to have changed from episode 4 to 5, probably showing very early morning coming on. We also see a wardrobe change, so there's definitely things going on off screen. The writers have just left out the information that A, we as an audience don't need, B, they don't want us to pay attention to, and C, doesn't forward plot or character development. Consequently, I don't think Vi and Caitlyn spent their time off screen having long and interesting conversations, solving problems or rolling in the hay. Because if they did, it would be shown on screen. It's the boring bits that's left out, such as sleeping and being unconscious, walking from A to B, and sharing information that the audience already knows. Such as, right after the Easy scene, Caitlyn talks about Jinx and Savika, and how would she know these names if Vi hadn't told her after the end of episode 5? But though this time doesn't warrant being shown to us viewers in the jam-packed Arcane, it is still significant to their relationship. The sharing of information and being in one another's company constantly for so long makes the trust between them grow, seeing how they can rely on each other through the days gone by. Attraction between them is apparent rather quickly, only after 1 to 2 days, and feelings start to develop soon after, but aren't fully developed or realized until 4 or 4.5 days have gone by. Jinx's tea party and the disaster that the two witness take place at night almost exactly 5 days after Vi and Caitlyn meet. More than enough days to make Vi hesitate a little as to whom she sides with at the tea party. and more than enough time for them to form such a secure and deep attachment that, in my opinion, will weather the storm of guilt, hurt, and anger that Jinx's actions will bring about in Season 2. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching yet another one of my ramblings about Violyn. I just love them, and I love Arcane. Can't wait for Season 2. I hope the writing is just as good as Season 1 because that was magnificent. I think this will be my last Violyn video before Season 2, but you never know, so keep a lookout. My next video will be about these two.